Welcome everyone to another Indie Dev Showcase here on the channel, highlighting the many indie game submissions and demos we check out. If you submit a game for a future piece, please get in touch. We are starting off with the demo for Mahokenshi, and I hope I didn't butcher that too badly. This was a kind of developer submitted demo build that we played about a year ago. This is a deck building style RPG. This is not a roguelike from what I believe from the store page, but kind of a story or mission driven game. Your mission is to save the land, and you're going to do it one hex at a time, one card at a time as well. So what makes this game very different is that you're going to be exploring, and you'll have cards for both movement and for combat. You can only do so much on each turn, and you have a limit of how many turns in order to successfully clear the map. Now, one thing that drew me to this game is definitely the art. Not just the environmental art that looks fantastic, but all the cards I believe are hand-drawn or have a hand-drawn aesthetic, and they look really great. Combat is of course built on you having to make use of your resources, and of course deal with whatever the enemy can throw at you. As you can see on the screen, all combat and everything is done on the map, so there is no separate layer for combat versus movement. Now, from the demo, there is definitely a variety of cards and options available. Every map has bonus objectives that you'll have to weigh the risks of going after given your time. All in all, I'm definitely intrigued by this game. Again, with it being a demo, we really couldn't get like a full look at all the systems and mechanics in place, but if you are a fan of deck builders and looking for one that's more story driven as opposed to roguelike, then definitely keep an eye out for this one. For our next game, this is Gastova, and this is another demo that we checked out. And here we turn to Metroidvania, kind of like inspired by the likes of Wonder Boy and of course the 8 and 16-bit action-adventure games. You play as Gastova here, the Guardian Witch. When she discovers that something bad has happened, her classmates have all turned evil, and she is going to have to save the world one biome at a time. So the general play of this one, again, this is pure action-adventure gameplay. Gastova here can shoot with her wand, and you'll gain different abilities and movement tech as you beat the various bosses, find collectibles, collect monies, as you saw right there. From the demo that we played, this seems to be somewhat on the, I would say, core to maybe lighter side. If you're hoping for like a super challenging game, I don't think it's going to hit that far. My big concern from the demo is that it definitely felt a little bit hard to figure out where you had to go. All the areas are very maze-like, and you'll have to typically find switches, look for the correct MacGuffin or power-up, and then move forward. But all in all, I felt this was a pretty charming game. It's not going to change your mind if you're already not a fan of 2D platformers, but if you do enjoy modern retro games like this, I would definitely give it a try. And now for something a little bit different, this is Cardians, a deck building roguelike kind of in a similar style to that of a Kingdom or sideway view kind of game. Now you've probably noticed a issue right at the start here, as when we played the demo it was entirely in, I believe that's Japanese, and there was no way, at least from what I could find, to change the text, which unfortunately meant I had to play the game without knowing what any of the cards did or how any of the rules worked. But surprisingly, we actually did beat the demo, and I was enjoying this game. So the basic rule is that we build or we place cards down that construct structures, which will give us more resources. We can also place down units with a limit based on, I believe, the number of houses or homes we have. Enemies will invade in waves, and it's up to us to set up proper defenses on both sides in order to beat them. And I was getting into this one despite having very little idea what was going on or the overall rules. So Much like our previous game, if you're not already a fan of deck builders and that kind of style, then Castle Cardians is not going to do it for you. But I was enjoying this game, and the fact that I was liking it even without understanding what anything was or what was going on is a good sign. And I'm hoping that when the game gets updated or when it gets released, they will be English options. But with that said, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we have 3 more games to look at for our showcase. And as always, if you're interested in my thoughts on design, then check out my game design books. For entry-level students, we have 20 essential games to study, and then the Game Design Deep Dive series that takes an extensive look at different genres, with free-to-play coming in 2022. For our next game, this is Transiruby. Now, the footage you're seeing is taken from the demo of it, but it is officially out now. This is a Metroidvania style game, as we play as our robot here, and she is on a mission to uncover, I believe, a treasure or mysterious power source on this planet. Staying in her way is going to be a bunch of enemies, collecting MacGuffins, and of course, finding secret routes and items. So this is definitely a Metroidvania through and through. You're going to have to search for a variety of power-ups, as well as kind of these cubes or these gems that act as your progression mechanic. You need to collect all the gems in order to move on to the next area. Hidden throughout the areas are going to be bonus MacGuffins, health upgrades, that kind of thing. From our play of it, I was enjoying this one. The game handles very nicely, and there is definitely a lot to explore and find in this title. The game kind of has a pseudo Dark Souls kind of level design, in that you'll go forward to find shortcuts and switches, which will in turn open up previously unavailable areas or shortcuts back to the start. You also gain the ability to freeze enemies using your gun, as you saw right there. In terms of difficulty, I would say this would be on the moderate to advanced side. The game likes to hide a lot of its secrets, as well as the collectibles that you need. And it can be very easy to miss something, and then just wonder, where was I supposed to go, what's going on, kind of deal. But if you do enjoy Metroidvania design and 2D action games, definitely check out the game. The demo is still available now. For our next demo, this is Vesper Ether Saga. This is a mix of RPG deck building strategy in a very interesting mix of elements. The game is, or I should say, the game and the demo are both built around episode 1, with I believe the plan is to release this as an episodic series. The story is told entirely through cutscenes with or shown through a comic book, and the comic book, I believe, according to the store page, is made exclusively for the game. In terms of the art, I think it's pretty well done. It's going for kind of like 90s over-the-top violence and action, that kind of thing. But the gameplay itself is all about completing missions. You have various objectives, which will unlock better gear, more points, that kind of thing. The combat itself is built on a combination of positioning, as well as when to use your powers and abilities. Your side is on the left, the bad guys are on the right. Kill the bad guys, all of them kill you. I think you should all be well acquainted with that style by now. But from what we played of it on stream, at least from the demo, it seems to be a very interesting mix of designs. Your enemies or every character will kind of operate on their own, but you'll get specific powers and cards that will have different abilities, different ranges, and you're just, again, trying to put your team or what you're strong against their weaknesses on the opposite side while avoiding it on your side. So positioning is a very big deal here. Now, from what we played of it, one concern that I had, this is a story-driven game. So it does kind of pay for you to do the missions as best as you can to get the most rewards and power up your main characters. And I just wonder how much of kind of like a Fire Emblem syndrome there could be here, that if you lose characters or you don't do enough, will you eventually hit a point where the enemy is just going to steamroll you just due to unlocks and stats. If you don't mind the hardcore violence or the over-the-top violence of the comic book scenes, I think this is a pretty interesting strategy game and definitely one for fans to check out. I believe the demo is still available now. For the last game of the showcase, we have kind of an interesting situation. This was originally called Power Slide, and since we played this demo, the game, I believe the title has been changed, and I can't find it on Steam or on my wish list. So if anyone knows what this game's name was changed to, please let me know and I'll update the title of the video and put a link to it down below. But this was a game that is kind of like a Sokoban style, almost meeting like a music-based game. Your mission is to get your various bandmates to their respective areas. Each person moves differently based on the instrument that they're playing. So someone may take a step every beat, someone may only move once every 2 beats, someone may only move like in a different pattern, and that kind of thing. And it's a very novel take on this kind of puzzle design. Now, if you're hoping to play this for the music, that's not what this game is. It's definitely more music as a thematic element rather than for the mechanics. You can, of course, change things, rewind, that kind of thing. And the complexity will grow as the levels get bigger, more bandmates are introduced that move differently, and that kind of thing. If you like Sokoban or these kinds of moving style puzzle games, I would say give this one a check, but if you don't like them, then this game is not going to, I guess, wow that particular audience. But with that said, we're going to wrap up the showcase for this week. As always, thank you for tuning in. You'll find links to the games down below. Again, if you'd like me to take a look at your game for a future piece, please reach out. And check out our Discord and Patreon link down below, and come back for daily discussions on game design here and on game wisdom, words in the art and science of games.